going to do a little splits warm up and then some split stretches. So this is to warm up for your splits and then some split stretches before you actually get into your splits. Anybody can do this warm up and stretch routine though, by the way. So even if you're not looking to get your splits, it's a nice little warm up, nice little stretch. Some of the stretches might be a little too deep for some people. For some people, they might not be deep enough, but it's just kind of a basic warm up. We're gonna warm up like if you have not a lot of time in your day, kind of a splits warm up, but you wanna make sure your muscles are warm enough to do the splits stretches you need to do. Because let's face it, when you're trying to get your splits, you're trying to work on it all week, you know, one way or another. You want rest days and you want lots of time to work on you want to really get those muscles, even if it's not the splits every day, but just something towards the splits. You have to kind of stick to it to get it. So if you don't have much time, this is for the days that you don't have as much time and you want to get the bare minimum done at least. Because obviously you can do a longer warm up, you can do more split stretches if you have the time. This is kind of your SOS, I need to do my splits today and have not much time. So we're going to stand with the feet kind of comfortably apart, but kind of wider than the hips. And we're going to squat. We're going right into the squat. So make sure your knees are tracking over your toes. So however turned out or parallel your feet are, that's where your knees are going. And bringing some weight to the heels, but still keeping weight on the whole foot, but get a little bit extra into the heels, lengthening your spine. So you want to make sure you're not rounding your back. And just go as low as you comfortably can. You know, depends what your knees are okay with. And we're gonna do a bunch of these. So just warming up the hips, the legs, and your core, and breathing. And I'm not going at any particular pace here. You could go slower. Really just kind of moving with your breath is totally fine. You don't have to go fast. What we're trying to do is at least try to break a bit of a sweat at least, or at least enough to feel warm. So that's what we're going for. So make sure, you know, even if your heat is turned up in your house or apartment or wherever you are, to help warm you up, that's fine, but you don't want to cheat too much and rely on the heater. You want to get that body moving. Good. So now we're going to stay down in the squat and pulse it. We're pulsing, push the floor away with your feet. Whatever you want to do with your hands is totally up to you. Just breathe. Now we're going to do a little squat walk. We're going to come together and open, together and open. So you decide again what you want to do with your hands. I seem to be doing this with my hands and arms. Whatever works. Getting warmer. Yes. So you want to warm up the whole body because the back, as I mentioned in my other splits video, the back is also involved in your splits. You want a nice flexible spine, so you want to warm up the back as well. So we'll get to that. So we're gonna take the legs wide apart and stay here, and we're gonna shift side to side. Breathe. Again, whatever, I'm just swinging my arms. Whatever you wanna do, you can keep your hands on your hips, whatever works. Now, you can stay up tall like this, or you could come down low and slow it down. So we're still doing some dynamic stretching. We're moving, we're not holding the stretch right now, we're still moving. So that'll help to warm up the body. Now we're gonna hold it on one side. So if you're up higher, maybe you rest a hand on your leg. Just wanna feel a little stretch on the inner thigh. We're not gonna hold it too long though, because we're still warming up. You might be down low. Just a couple more deep breaths, we're not staying here long. And then we're gonna switch to the other side. So you're either up nice and high, lengthen your back, or you're down low. And just breathe. Yeah. We'll get into these stretches a bit more, but we're just coming back to the center. So now, kind of like a spider, we're down really low. You might have your hands on the floor, hands on your legs, and you're just gonna do a little shift side to side. So I'm sticking my butt way out behind me. I'm still trying to lengthen my back. And I'm using my arms to kind of push my knees open a little bit while I shift. So for some people, this might be a little too intense. So just listen to your body. If you need to take a break, grab some water, catch your breath, by all means, that's okay. You don't have to go, go, go the whole time. Just trying to warm up. And we're gonna come all the way up. Ugh. And then we're gonna do some You could do jumping jacks. You could jump or you could step. Step jacks, just keeping it moving. Get the blood pumping. I don't like to warm up to the point, and I don't suggest you do either, to the point where you're tired, too tired. You might already be getting tired, maybe, depending. Finding some movements that you can do that don't tire you out too much. That's why I'm just not jumping these. I'm not jumping these. I'm stepping them instead of jumping, because you don't want to be so fatigued that you can't hold your stretch parts when we get to the stretching. You want to be able to hold the stretches comfortably, keep your form, and not just want to fall over. And then when you get to your actual split stretches, you want to make sure you can support yourself and you're not too tired. So we don't want to fatigue too much. Okay, that being said, we're going to then, it's good to come next to a wall for this, or a chair, something to hold on to. We're going to bring one knee to the chest, and we're going to lean back. So you could do this without a wall if you want to practice your balance just for kicks, but you want to make sure you can really focus on that stretch. Now I'm just doing this, I'm going to say gently, I'm not going too fast. I'm trying to get into the front of this hip. It's like a standing, you know, when you lie on your back and bring a knee to your chest. It's kind of like that. We're just trying to get into the back a little bit here. I'm squeezing my butt, at least the cheek that's of the standing leg, and I'm working, getting into the front of my hip. But I'm still moving. And we're gonna switch sides, but before we do, we're gonna keep with this leg, we're gonna bring it down, and we're gonna swing it. So make sure you have some room for this. You're not gonna hit anything. You could totally practice your balance and put your hands on your hips if you want. But, you know, if you're trying to work on your balance too, that's great to do. But if you're just trying to warm up for your splits, by all means, hold on to a wall. Just don't slam your leg against anything or anyone. And this will also get into your low back a little bit too. We're getting your front splits and your back splits in that leg right now. We're just warming it all up. We're almost done the warm up, by the way. It's just kind of a quickie. As long as I hope you're getting warm. We're gonna switch sides now. So we're gonna come to the other side, and we're gonna bring the knee to the chest. You can hold it underneath or on top, and we're just leaning back. I'm squeezing the bun, the cheek of my standing leg to help support my back. So you don't want to crunch your spine. We're not trying to go way back here. This is more about your hip, but it's, you know, obviously your back is involved, so that's good. Just trying to keep the back happy while you do it. And then we're going to swing the leg. So I'm going to bring it down. We're just going to swing. So trying to keep your hips facing forward as much as you can, because we're training for those nice square splits as much as we can. And just listening to your back. Let yourself hinge while you do this. You don't need to be totally tall while you do it. Let yourself have some movement. I even have a little bend in my standing leg while I do this, just to keep the knee happy. And 3, and 2, and 1, and yeah. Back to center. Okay, there we go. Now, before we come down to the mat to stretch, we're gonna just circle the hips. This is more just a nice little treat, kind of like you're cooling down from the warm-up, but we're still moving. Good. Now, if this didn't warm you, I'm feeling warm. I'm actually I've broken a tiny sweat. Could also be the heat in this room too. So as long as you feel warm, we're gonna switch directions with the hips. So, I don't know, if you didn't pay your heating bill and your heat's off in your house or your apartment, which can happen, we've all been there, and you're cold, you're still cold, do all this again. Do the video again, do it again, or some other movement that feels good. You just wanna make sure you're warm. Okay, there are a million things you could do to warm up. This was just an example. Threw some random things in there that help your, let's come back to the center, come back to work your hips, and your legs, and your core, and your back. Okay, now before we come all the way down to the mat, we're gonna come into a little lunge. You could have yoga blocks here if you want, or you know, big books or something if you can't quite reach the floor. So we're gonna keep the back knee off the mat, and we're gonna bend and stretch the front leg. So it's another moving stretch. So the back leg's trying to stay straight, it's just along for the ride. This is pyramid pose in yoga, but we're moving it from a lunge to pyramid pose. So you're just trying to get as close to that front leg as you can, trying to straighten it as much as you can, just enough to feel a stretch. So remember, it depends where you are right now in your splits journey. If you're feeling really not very flexible at this point, that's okay. You don't have to straighten any legs totally, you just do what you can. As long as you feel a stretch happening without pain, that's what matters. Now we're gonna hold this. So you might be here, you might have your legs both straight, you might be here, you might be here, you might just choose to stay in the lunge for now and focus on the back leg in this stretch. Whatever works for you. Support on either side is always good too, and you're trying to lengthen your back. Good, now you can hold this even longer if you want. You could pause me and hold it for, another 10, 20 seconds, whatever feels good. But we're gonna come to the center. I'm just giving you kind of an example of what you can do. So now we're in the center, folding forward. You can have yoga blocks here too, whatever helps. You can take your legs a little wider apart, closer together, whatever works. And you're always trying to lengthen your back. And we're gonna come back to that shift, bending one leg and then the other. So your heels may lift off the ground as you do this, they may not. You could let your toes come up and flex your foot. You don't have to. And there are different ways you can get this stretch. You could have your knee facing up or facing forward, because there are two kinds of middle splits as well. There's straddle and there's middle split. So if you're trying to train for those two, you could do a little rotation. Just be gentle. I like to flex the foot just to support the knee joint a little bit more. Keep those bits and pieces happy. And then we're gonna make our way over to the other leg for that pyramid pose. So we're gonna turn to face the other side, starting in a lunge. And you could totally stay in your lunge, or you could bend and stretch. So even if you're not feeling so flexible right now, any amount of movement you can get here, even if your back knee is on the ground and you do a little shift, that's fine too. I have my back knee up because I'm kind of working my way down to the mat, so I'm doing a higher version, a high lunge version. But you could totally do this with your back knee on the floor, a lower version, and then we're gonna hold it. So wherever you can hold it, trying to square those hips, again, trying to train for that square split. Even if you're not training for splits right now, always good to try to square your hips to really get into that stretch. Breathing. When you're holding these stretches, good time to catch your breath from all that warming up. And then from here, we're gonna come to the center again, and we're going to come down to the mat. Now, you could do this little stretch. If we were doing middle, this is more for front splits I'm focusing on, but you could do your little froggy stretch for middle splits. I'm not gonna get into that right now. This is just kind of a quickie for front splits. I'll do a middle splits one at some point. But we're gonna come into pigeon pose. So if you like, you can start in downward dog. You can even walk your dog a few times, pedal those feet, stretching the backs of the legs, which are involved in your splits. And then we're gonna bring the right knee through. So if you want a little lift off, you can lift the leg, bring that right knee to your right hand, and then walk your left leg back into a little pigeon pose. You're trying to keep the weight in the center. And you can stay tall to help stretch your spine, because remember, this is the back of your splits. You want to make sure you're stretching your spine. But you could also come down low to the mat to start stretching your front leg for the splits. Rocking side to side can feel nice. Just make sure you're not leaning to one side the whole time. You want to make sure you're feeling that stretch and staying in the center. And then if you want to go deeper, if you're up here, you could bend the back leg, and you could even practice bending and stretching the back leg, and you're trying to make sure your foot goes straight up. It's not turning in or going out, it's going straight up. And that's how you'll be able to tell too if your hips are square. It's a good little tester to do. And then when you're actually down in your full splits, when you get to that point, you can also practice this just to make sure your splits are square. It's hip to be square. So, or you can hold it, you can grab the foot. If you're gonna do this, try to face forward. Again, we don't wanna train to open, we wanna train to be square. You'll also feel the stretch more this way too. And you can hold that for a little bit. And then we're gonna switch sides. So slowly come out of it. You don't have to come back to downward dog. The yogi in me wants to do it. So I'm walking my dog, kind of a reset. It's a nice little way to reset. And then we're gonna take the left leg, just to get a little running movement here to bring that left knee just behind the left hand. And then walk the right leg back. And again, staying tall is a nice stretch, or coming down low is also a nice stretch. Maybe you start with one, take a few breaths there, and then maybe you come up here and try that. Just peek over your shoulder and make sure that back foot is facing straight up. If you're bending, also a nice way to work your back of your leg muscles. And make sure your knees are happy. This mat that I'm on right now is not my thickest mat, but it's definitely a little thicker than some thin yoga mats. So just make sure your knees are happy, all your bits and pieces. And you could grab that leg facing forward, however you want to grab it, whatever works. You could even use a strap. Put a strap around the top of your foot. Hold either side over your shoulders to help you hold it. And you could hold that for a little while. And then we're going to come around, just do a little butterfly stretch. This is good for any of your splits, middle or front. Just another nice stretch for your hips. So the closer in you have your feet, the deeper it is, but if you're struggling to hinge forward and your back hurts, you can always take your feet further away. As long as you feel a stretch and you're not hurting your spine, pulling on it. You don't want to pull yourself if you can help it. You just want to let yourself kind of be here. You can have some movement. Just because we've already warmed up doesn't mean, like, I really like moving in my stretches, even when I'm warm. I like rocking, I like just like circling, just any movement in a stretch can help you to deepen the stretch. So speaking of that, and you can flap your butterfly wings here, whatever feels good. There are lots of different stretches you can do with butterfly as well. We are going to stretch the legs in front, flex the feet, slide the hands down the legs. Now, it's totally fine to have a little flexion in your spine. You don't have to have this perfectly straight spine. You can fold down to your legs. You just want to make sure you're not hanging there. So push your legs into the floor, activate them, and reach out to the top of the head. And then notice I still have a curve in my spine. That's totally fine. You could rock here, just to kind of ease into it a little more, give your tushy some space, all that good stuff. There are lots of stretches you can do for your front splits. Honestly, I at some point might even do a part 2 for front split stretches. There are lots of things that you can do for your front splits. You can lie down on your back and bring a leg towards your face, which is basically what we're doing in a seated position, but we're just doing one leg at a time. You could totally do this with a strap around your foot too if you want. Just hold it, lengthening your spine. There's lots of stuff you can do. However, this is your quickie. So we picked a few. Now you want to come into your split stretches. So if you're not training for the splits, you can turn this off at this point. But if you are, coming into a low lunge. And then a nice way to do this, to again, try to train your square splits, is to try to ease yourself into kind of an over lunge. So we're taking the foot now past the knee. So you could either inchworm your front foot forward or take your back knee back a little bit, and you could come up nice and tall. So the taller you get, you're putting weight down into those hips so the stretch is deeper. So if this feels comfortable for you, you could either do it like this if you need to hold on to something on either side, or one side, that's fine too, so that you can actually, if you're really wobbly and can't balance well in this position, it's good to hold on to something so that you can focus on squaring the hips, getting nice and tall, and we're stretching the spine as well. And then just keep inching and just hold each little sector of this for, even a few breaths until you kind of get to a point where, maybe you can't stay up nice and tall anymore, maybe you're falling over, and then you just ease your front foot forward, your back foot back. My other video shows you how to be comfortable with with your feet and your knees and holding on to something and all that. So if you're not all the way down your splits, please be patient. And if you are all the way down, maybe you do some rocking, maybe you try to twist to the opposite side just to help square the splits, and it also feels nice sometimes. And if you're really feeling splitsy, I've been teaching a lot all week, so I'm stiff for other reasons, but make sure you do the other side. So we're gonna do the other side. This is not my great side, with my left foot front. It's not my great side. So just as well we're doing this today. So you could totally hold, again, I'm now inching my front ankle past my knee, and you could hold these little motions for several breaths. I'm just speeding through a little faster just to show you, but you can definitely hold these longer if it feels comfortable. As long as you don't feel you're getting tired and fatiguing and kind of and you're just getting tired and you can't hold yourself up and wake up the muscles to support while you're doing this, the muscles are there to help you. So find those square hips, square splits. Let's see how far I can get down here today. I don't know. I have been able to get all the way down. Hey, just. Not perfect, but I'm down there. Anyway, so again, you can stay here, you can hold, you could rock, you could twist, whatever feels good. If you're already in the splits, you want to get your over splits, you would put something under your front foot, maybe to start and just inch your way up if you want to go deeper, but always listening. And then when you come out of it, you can hold your splits for a few breaths, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 20, I think 30 tops is what, unless if the splits becomes a normal stretch for you and it feels really good, you can stay it as long as you want, but too much of anything is not good, obviously. So when you come out of it, I'm in this position for a reason. This is a nice position to get into after doing your splits. It just kind of brings everything back in. So you could just kind of take your hips side to side. If you don't like being in a kneeling position, you could even sit and hug your knees in, maybe take them side to side. Whatever feels good for you at this point. You could stand up, fold forward, hang your head, whatever feels nice. Do some yoga, it's all good. So that was a quickie. So just gives you an idea, and you can hold all of the stretches longer, take more, you want to take slow, deep breaths. You can hold all that longer, you can pause me as you go, and just hold the stretches for 10 to 30 seconds and stuff, and you can do a longer warm-up if you weren't warm yet. Just remember to have patience, and again, if you're not getting your splits, that was a nice little warm-up and stretch. You want to make sure you stretch every day, so, there you go. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to comment below if there are any other details you want to see. And again, I might do a part 2 of the front splits just to show other stretches you could do and stuff. And a middle splits one I'll do at some point, but since not everybody on this channel cares at all about the splits, I'll be still posting a variety of videos, of course, but feel free to comment below with anything else you'd like to see. And I appreciate you watching, subscribing, viewing, sharing, and I will see you again. Keep moving.